I hope you're all having a wonderful day and welcome to my channel. I had no idea I was filming today. That's why I look a little disheveled. I just got out of the shower. But every year I want to make this video and I totally forget because the date just like sneaks up on me, and I think maybe because like I'm so focused on Halloween and all the Halloween things, I totally forget to make a video. So this year I'm doing it. This week, October 1st through the 7th, is BFRB Awareness Week. And what that is, I actually had to look it up because I had no idea it's a thing, but it's body focused repetitive behavior disorder. So long story short, I got diagnosed when I was about 9 or 10 years old with trichotillomania, and basically I have the impulse to repetitively pull out my hair, such as my eyebrows and my eyelashes. But that falls into a bigger umbrella term, which is this BFRB disorders thing. And that also includes skin picking, skin nibbling, cheek biting, inner lip biting, tongue biting, nail picking, hair nibbling, hair cutting, hair pulling. So that's all under the same umbrella, and that's what this awareness week is about. So since I have trichotillomania, I just want to take an opportunity just to discuss like my experience with it, my story, how I discovered it, and just be more open about it, because with my channel, like I do a lot of stuff about makeup and Disney. It's a lot of fun, but ultimately with anything I do, I just want to be able to help other people. And if for whatever reason this video can help at least one person, it's totally worth it. And it is not an easy topic to discuss, especially like as a makeup artist. It's really hard like not having eyebrows or eyelashes at times. But I kind of wanted to share my story and also talk about some things that have helped me too, and kind of recognizing either times in my life where it's harder or things that cause it to be worse for me, in hopes that maybe this could help you, and also just give some advice too from my perspective. I'm not like an expert on the topic. I am my own expert of like my experience. So that's what I'm doing today, is sharing that with you guys. So going all the way back, I'm 26 now, and I think I got diagnosed around the age of 9 or 10 years old. I believe I was in 4th or 5th grade. There is no exact known cause of any of these disorders right now, which is kind of crazy to me. I'm hoping like somehow in like the next decade or so we find out like what the cause is, but at this moment there is no cause or no known cause for why it happens. But I do remember having a conversation with a family friend who was a little bit older. She was kind of cool because she was an older girl. I think I had like an eyelash fall out on my cheek or something, and she said like, oh, like make a wish. If you blow on your eyelash, you can make a wish. And as a small child who loved, and still do, loved Disney and princesses and wishes and mermaids and all those things, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But it wasn't happening like fast enough. My eyelashes weren't naturally falling out fast enough. So I would find myself kind of like just tugging on them and playing with them. And I realized, oh, like if I do that, sometimes they come out. So I think that's kind of how it started for me. Around that same time, like in 4th grade, I did have a teacher that was bullying me, and I had to get pulled out from school and was homeschooled. And also at the same time, I discovered my love for modeling. I was a fit model and a child model, and I loved it. I've always been so artistic, and I love acting and all those things. So for me, it was so much fun. You get to play dress up and take photos, and it's just really fun. So I love doing that. And a lot of people were really supportive at first, but I think after some time went by, like I started losing friends, and people started thinking that I was some sort of way. I don't know if it's because like in movies we see like models and actresses, or we see those types of people personified in a certain type of way where they're like the villain or they're not good. I don't know. They weren't very nice. So anyways, the combination of, I think those two things really started it for me, to the point where I do remember people asking me, like in 6th grade, I had someone ask me like, why don't you have any eyebrows? And I do remember losing modeling jobs because of my lack of hair on my head. So those are like the only memories I have of it as a kid happening. I do remember going to the doctor when I was a kid and she explaining like, oh, you have trichotillomania. So I remember learning what that word was at a very young age and understanding that's what I had. Unfortunately, at the time, the only photos and like news about trichotillomania was this one photo on Wikipedia. I feel like it's still the photo, but it's this, I think it's a guy's back of his head, and his head looks like it's scabbing, or there's like hair missing in clumps, and it looks like something out of a horror film. And then the other like thought, or the other time I heard about it or knew about it, was in My Strange Addiction on TLC.
And I pull my hair out. Look how thick your hair is.
Yeah, it was really nice. When I started pulling my hair out, I was 16. I was pulling so much then. I got rid of most of my hair, and it was uncontrollable. I dropped out of high school because I couldn't learn, I couldn't think, I couldn't concentrate. Ow! Oh my goodness. Ow. See, my scalp hurts right now. Like, it hurts from pulling my hair out last night. It's like sore.
When she pulled her hair out, it made me sad. It made me very sad. I felt bad for her because society is harsh. And if you don't have hair in society, you're a misfit.
And I'll grab a hair like this. Like this hair right here. And I'll eat my follicle. It can go on for hours. The reason that I like to eat it is because it's gooey. It's like wet. It's weird, and I like sometimes run it across my lip like this. I have to eat it if I see it. I don't know why.
Basically, the only like types of people I saw having this were strange or weird. Really quick, I wanted to say, as I'm editing this, and now that I was able to find the clip of the scene that I was talking about, just want to explain, it's not that I thought that this person was strange or weird, but the way it was portrayed, and even some of the language that they say is like, oh, well, Haley suffers from trichotillomania, or even worse, she does this. Like, they made her like villainized, and they made it seem like this big bad horrible thing, and they're playing this really sad music when she's looking at pictures of herself. Like, I feel like that made it seem strange or weird. So when I say like that all I'm seeing are these people who are strange and weird, it's not necessarily that I think they are, it's just the way that they were portrayed to me when I was younger made it seem like it was strange or weird because of the way it was portrayed. No one wants to be outcasted or feel like they're different, so it became like some big secret in middle school and high school. I mean, oh my gosh, middle school, like that's the time where everyone's kind of like figuring out who they are, they have all these hormones, and people are extra nasty to each other, so like, of course, like I didn't want people knowing. But yeah, so I didn't really tell a lot of people in middle and high school. I told a couple people, but when I did, it was like my big secret. Like, I made a big deal about it, I feel like, but that's also because of at the time, like, that's all the images I saw of it, so I thought, like, if I tell people, they're going to see me like I'm some sort of monster, and I just didn't know how to explain it. So there was a lot of years, I feel like it wasn't too bad, but I definitely have experienced it since I was 10. I feel like in college, it got way, way worse. I don't know if it's because of the stress of college, and college is really where I started to open up and talk to people about it and just be open about it with friends and be like, you know what, like, this is what I have. And I realized every time I did that, every time someone either had heard about it, they knew about it, they had experienced it themselves to even like the smallest degree, or they had a friend who had it or a family member. Like, everyone like was connected to it in some way. And also, like, in college, I started to learn, like, this is what blew my mind, was that like the same behaviors that I exhibit, like sometimes like I'll pull out an eyelash and then I'll naturally like want to play with it, or like, again, I know it's weird, it sounds weird to someone who doesn't experience it, but I would get the sensation of pulling it out and then I pull and play with it, and like I would read that online that other people experience that. So what's weird to me is that like I have this behavior, I guess it's not called behavior, because when I was a kid it was an obsessive compulsive disorder, then it became an impulse control disorder, now it's like a behavior, but this behavior, it's so interesting to me that like people I don't even know do the same mannerisms as me. So it's not like it's a trained or a known behavior, because I never watched anyone do that and thought like, I'm gonna try that too. I feel like it has gotten worse. I know one year it was really bad for me was senior year. My uncle was murdered, and dealing with the stress of that, and that really did rock my world. And I feel like that year, like my eyebrows, I think I could insert a picture because I have a picture of what my eyebrows look like. They were just gone. And I feel like ever since then it's been kind of a struggle for me. I actually was, when I was starting to film this video and thinking about it, I realized like, you know what, like usually during the summer and spring months I'm okay. It's when October hits and maybe the stress of like Halloween and being a makeup artist and wanting to create Halloween looks, that causes me to have a hard time, and with the holidays, because I know that like in the past couple of years around this time of year it starts to get harder for me, and around Christmas time I notice like in photos I don't have any eyelashes, because I'll take pictures of it to remind myself of what that looks like and just to help document it. And I've noticed that the trend is that I will tend to like have it be worse around the holidays. So just noticing that trend in myself and seeing like, oh, during these times of the year, like it's harder for me has helped too, just to see kind of times I might be struggling. So that's kind of my story with it. It does make it really difficult at times being a makeup artist, trying to create these elaborate looks or eyeshadow looks, or like for me, the hardest thing is like trying to create a normal looking eyebrow is so challenging. So what I did today actually is I do have my brows microbladed. I did get them microbladed last year, or this year. I got them microbladed this year, I think in February. So I actually covered them up with foundation because most of the time they don't look as bad as they actually are, because the microblading does such a good job. It kind of like shades it in so that it acts as like it looks like there's always makeup on, which is great, because I think for me, part of the process is just having that shame and looking in the mirror and seeing what I've done to myself. It makes it really, really hard. So I actually applied foundation over them so you guys can see what my brows actually look like. I haven't even looked at myself with like my natural brows in a while. It looks pretty abnormal, and recently I started pulling out more eyelashes on my right side, and my left side's fine. I've noticed that for me, like I'll alternate between my brows and my eyelashes, where I'll be pulling out my eyelashes and then I'll switch to my brows. Some people pull out their hair on their head. I've never struggled with that. My hair is totally fine. I've never had an issue. I've never been I mean, the one thing I'll do is I'll like play with my hair a lot, and hair will naturally like fall out, but like I never find myself pulling the same way I do with my brows and my eyelashes. So that's kind of like my story with it, or how it's evolved, my history with it. So going into what it is, at least to me, there's a lot of websites, if you were to look up Trichotillomania, that could probably explain this better than I can. Basically what it is for me is it helps me relax, and it's something that I do. I'm at the point now where I don't think about it when I do it. I've noticed that I do it when I am like driving my car to work, or I'm at work, or I'm working on something. It's kind of like a mind-numbing experience where I just don't really think about it. The sensation is kind of hard to explain, but it does create a positive sensation. Like, it's not like I don't enjoy it, because if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. But the problem is I do it and I think it's fine, but then obviously it causes damage. And that's kind of the same with all the other behavior disorder, or what's it called? I have to look this up again. The other body-focused repetitive behavior disorders. So they say it's an umbrella name for an impulse control behavior involving compulsively damaging one's appearance or causing physical injury. So you're impulsively damaging yourself, but it's not like it's painful to me necessarily. It causes a release. The best way to kind of explain it is like, okay, let's just say you have a zit and you pop the zit, or if you have a scab and you pick at it, or like if you have food stuck in your teeth and it's causing that like your annoyance, and then you were to get it out with floss, like that kind of feeling is kind of similar to having that relief, like having that tension built up by like having food caught in your teeth and then removing it by flossing it, which actually I'll talk about later, because I found that when I'm stressed and I tried flossing, that actually does help me a little bit. But that's kind of what it feels like. So it's not like it hurts necessarily, and it's not like I'm thinking like I'm going to hurt myself right now. It's more of like I'm just bored and I'm just kind of playing with my eyebrows, or I'm just playing with my eyelashes. It's not like a cognizant thought that I have. So that's kind of roughly what it is, but I think people have varying levels of it and levels of intensity too. So some people might do a little bit, but they're fine most of the time. Some people might be like me, where they have like barely any eyebrows. Some people might have no eyebrows at all. They might have it on their head. I mean, there's just so many different variations of it because we have hair in different places. But I've noticed that mine have always been about my face, so my eyebrows and my eyelashes, and then I tend to alternate. So if my eyebrows are doing bad, my eyelashes are probably pretty good, and vice versa. And so for me, things I found to like help me stop, I've never been able to stop. I'm 26. I started when I was about 10, so that's about like, or 9 or 10, that's like 16, 17 years. I finally just accepted it and just realized, like, you know what, there's gonna be times where I struggle with this more, and that's okay. And I've realized the less I shame myself about it, the easier it is for me, and the more I actually talk about it and public about it and tell friends about it, it's easier for me. I feel like part of the problem with this for so long was that I just didn't want to talk about it, and it held that on me, and I felt like it had this control over me because it was my secret and I couldn't tell people. But now that I realize like people aren't going to run away screaming if I tell them that I have this, and that people will be really understanding, and I feel really comforted knowing how many people actually have it. But I remember learning as a kid, it's one of the highest underreported behavior issues. The what is this? Oh my gosh. BFRB is really highly underreported because people just don't want to talk about it and they're afraid to. But I think in recent years, people have gotten better about opening it up and discussing this, which I think is great. But some things that have helped to me is just being aware of times that I might be struggling. So I've been able to identify like, okay, I definitely struggle with this in the car as I'm driving home, sitting in traffic. I definitely experience this while watching TV, or, you know, like I don't really do it during reading a book because my hands are busy, but I notice that like if I'm scrolling through Instagram, that's when it happens. If I am watching TV or watching something on my phone or a video, that happens. If I'm sitting at work on my computer, it happens. So it does happen in those times where I feel like I'm kind of like mindlessly working on something. It's not something I'm very like aware of. Being aware of those times, I've tried to figure out ways where I can just be aware of it more and just really try to want to change. And one thing I've noticed for me recently that's been helping is applying mascara because I don't want to get all the black gunk on my hands. However, when I was a teenager, that actually I hated the texture of it, so it made me pull them out more. Something else I've tried before too is getting eyelash extensions applied on. So like getting the false ones or the ones they do the individual lashes. But again, it added more of a texture. And so like I didn't like the texture. And so the texture made me more likely to pull them out. The best way I've been able to figure out what it is, for myself at least, is that I always want things to be even. So like either that means like having full lashes or having no eyelashes at all. My goal is to make it like have the same texture. Because I've noticed that like if my eyelashes are all in, like my left side, totally fine. I don't find myself finding the need to pull that, but on my right side, as I've started to lose eyelashes, it creates gaps and different textures. So I have lashes that are growing in and they're a different texture than the lashes that are long, and there's those gaps. So like I keep finding myself wanting to like even that out or kind of clean it up. I guess it's kind of similar to like if you see the hair that's out of place and you're using tweezers and you're just trying to clean it up, or like if you're working on something and something's out of line, you're trying to correct it. So for me, I've kind of noticed like that's kind of when I notice it gets worse. So if I don't pull them out at all, like, and I have like my lashes are all there, they're full, like I don't find myself needing to pull that out. And same with it growing back in, like my eyebrows. If they were full, I probably wouldn't find myself struggling with it as much. But because they're growing back in and it has like a sharper texture, it's kind of pokey because the hairs are so short. I do find myself like touching it more because it's annoying that it seems like it's out of place. What I'll do sometimes too, if I'm really trying to grow them back and I'm very aware of it, I will put on false lashes in the morning. It is kind of annoying, but again, once I touch my lashes and feel like, oh, like, well, I have mascara there, I don't want to pull off the mascara, or, oh, I have false lashes, like, I can't pull them off right now because that would be really obvious and like at work, and I don't want to do that. So I found those tricks to help me kind of prevent myself. I've tried before like wearing glasses, because then if I brush up against my glasses, I'll notice and that I'm doing something, and that hasn't really helped. When I was younger, I noticed that I would pull out my eyelashes a lot right before I went to sleep. So I had these like eye cover things I would wear as at nighttime to help prevent myself from like wanting to touch my eyelashes. Trying to think what else. That's kind of been just being aware of it and being really cognizant of it has really helped me a lot. One thing that actually helped way more than I thought, I actually hated flossing. For the longest time I didn't do it. I got these little flosser thingies that are like about that big, and they're just like the individual ones. So I keep them in my car because that's a place where I struggle with pulling out my eyelashes. And what I'll do is if I'm finding myself doing that, obviously one hand's on the wheel, I will just floss my teeth because I get a similar sensation of like flossing your teeth and removing that or just cleaning it up. Like I get the same like satisfaction from that as I do with pulling out my eyelashes. So I don't know if that would help for you guys if you are struggling with that. But for whatever reason, that's helped me. So I've been trying to do it more, but it is hard, and there are times I definitely struggle with it more than others. I think just being aware of that and giving yourself grace with that too, recognizing like, you know what, this is what I deal with and it's okay. I'm still loved. I'm still beautiful. I'm still worthy even without hair on my head. I just try to constantly remind myself of that. So if you have a loved one or someone you know is struggling with this, here are some things you might not want to talk to them about or say to them. One thing I've gotten before is like, why don't you just stop? So if you ask someone that, and that's with anything, that's like with like any addiction or like anything that's going on, and you can see that they have this negative behavior, just asking them like, why don't you just stop? That what that does is it implies that like they have control over it and they want to be doing it. Like, trust me, I don't want to not have eyelashes. Like, my natural eyelashes are really long and beautiful and they're amazing. I don't want to be pulling them out and destroying them. Like, that's like my, like, I hate it. I hate looking at pictures of myself and not having eyebrows or hair. It makes it harder for me to be a makeup artist and it just makes me uncomfortable. So like, there's no way if I could choose to have this, I would ever choose to want to have this. Like, I don't want to have it. So by asking someone like, why don't you just stop? It kind of just implies that they can and that they're choosing not to, which I know that's probably not the intention, but that's kind of how it comes off and how it feels. I think by just giving myself grace and recognizing like, you know what, I have this and that's okay, and like being open to talking about it really does help me a lot. But just help other people understand like, you know what, like it's okay that I have this and it's not something I would choose to have, but I do have it, and it's not something that I can just decide I'm done with it, it's done. I didn't really give any tips for how to help someone, but I think just being there for them, being supportive, and being just open to it and not shaming them for it, and recognizing, you know what, like you do have that, but everyone has something and it's okay that you have this, and there's a lot of people out there that do have that, so you're not alone in that. I think that will make them feel supported, because every time that I've talked about it in a video or in a post, I've been amazed by the amount of support and love that I felt like from people, and just how many people also experience that too to different levels. And it's always amazing to me how many people will find my content when I'm talking about trichotillomania and be like, oh my gosh, I have that too. I had no idea I had that, or there was a name for it. Like, I thought that was something weird that I did. So it does help, I feel like, by talking about it and being open about it, because you realize like, wow, I'm not alone in this. So for me, I think if I was like a family member of someone that does have it, just talk to them about it. Maybe you don't try to tell them like, stop doing that, or don't do that, or take that approach. But really just listening to them when they're talking about it, and recognizing, hey, like you do have that, but that's okay. Like for me, that's when I felt the most supported, was when people are just like loving and kind. And because for so long, like I thought it was the weirdest thing, and I was like terrified of telling people, but just to have people be like, oh, okay, you have that, no big deal, is like the best feeling in the world, because it makes me realize like I'm still loved and I'm still a great person and I'm still okay even though I have this. So anyways, that is what I got. It was kind of like a ramble. Didn't really have much clarity in that whole thing. I kind of went different places. But if there's any questions you guys have, please feel free to ask me. I am obviously fine putting myself out there on the internet in public. So if you guys have any questions for me about that, or just like yourself, or I will leave some links down below for if you guys want to learn more about that, some helpful resources. There's actually a lot out there now than there used to be, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'm happy to answer questions you may have if you're experiencing this, if you're just like, if there's something I didn't cover, because I'm sure there is. I kind of just rambled and didn't really have like a clear path on how I was doing that. So I apologize that I was jumping around, but I just thought it was really important, because every year I've wanted to make this video, and even though it's not easy for me to make this video, I'm sure it won't be easy for me to upload this video, because it is uncomfortable for me to talk about. I think it's really important to do that. Oh, let me show you guys. So I need to get a wipe. Well, this wipe is kind of like, oh no, this works, I think. This is kind of a dried up wipe that I used last night. But I'm removing the foundation, so you guys can see what my brows look like with microblading. And this is not a wet wipe, so it's taking a little bit more time than it usually does. But just to show you guys what this looks like. So you saw it before, and so it does actually like fill it in and shade it in. So my brows look better than they do like this normally, which is kind of cool. I'm gonna take a little bit of a moisturizer and just apply that on. Try to remove that better. So let me show you guys what this looks like. It's like instant brow. So it still doesn't look great, but I feel like the microblading has done an amazing job. And at least for me, like when I start pulling out my eyebrows, that was the hardest thing, is like I don't know where the shape should be, and so my eyebrows would look really weird all the time. But I feel like now with my microblading, they look, they're not like totally normal yet, but they're back to, you know, what they could be. I mean, obviously I feel like that's a pretty big difference from what I just showed you guys, like what you just saw. So this is me. I'm sure there's a little bit of foundation still left, but that's what they look like with microblading. I have a whole video talking about my experience. I really like it. I Will say though, with that, like what you see in pictures of how it's going to look, like it looks really precise and your brows look perfect, it does fade a lot. So this is what it fades to, which is nice. I have no eyebrows, as you saw, like right now. They're barely there. So like this does look pretty normal compared to what I could look like. And I think if you did have fuller brows, it would look a little bit more natural. But overall, I really appreciated it, and I'm really glad I did that, because what part of the cycle was for me was like I would pull my hair out and then I'd see myself in the mirror and see like what the damage I did, and it would make me feel worse, which would then in turn make me want to pull out my hair more. So it was like the cycle that I was going through of feeling the shame, pulling out my hair, feeling more shame, pulling out more hair, and it kind of helped to stop that cycle. So for me, getting my brows microbladed was one of the best things I could have done. So if you guys are interested, I do have a video on that talking about that experience. I would look into that if that's something that you think would help you at all. I think it does help me overall though, especially like getting ready in the morning. I feel like I already have a shape I can see. Even if the hair's not there, I know like where to draw on my eyebrows, which is really nice. So anyways, that was a much longer video than I anticipated on making. So I hope you guys are still watching and that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching this video. It means a lot to me. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!